Hi, there are lots of plasma sphere tutorials on the internet, but no one is like this one because we are going to make this holosphere plasma sphere, and that is a new one. So if you are interested, then let's go ahead and let's start. Okay, so let's get started. I have already done some basic modifications to this standard Blender scene regarding the output, so resolution and frame rate and so on. That can you adjust as ever you like. And important is that we switch the render engine to cycles because we are working with a holosphere here, and holosphere needs real ray tracing, and that is provided by cycles. And of course, if you have a GPU, you should switch also to GPU computing. So we are removing this default cube, and we are adding a UV sphere, and we are bringing up this resolution to, let's say, a little bit, yeah, like this, and then we can render this smooth, and so we go. And in order to make a holosphere, yeah, we need to have a shell and inside nothing, so we duplicate this this sphere and scale the second one to an amount that gives us, yeah, the thickness of the shell in the end. So we have an outer sphere and we have an inner sphere, and now we have to render the difference between these two objects, and this is done with the help of a modifier, and this modifier is named Boolean. So we can apply Boolean operations on objects we have in our scene. And so we have this outer object, our sphere, and we want to subtract the inner object, the sphere 001, from this outer object. So we apply a Boolean operator, and we say the operand is our sphere and the object is our sphere 001. Okay, and then we apply. And of course, from the outside, nothing is to be seen here. So we have to switch to X-ray mode. And then we can see if we activate our first sphere, we get 2 circles. And if we activate the inner sphere, we get only 1. So obviously this operation was successful, and we can remove the inner sphere and stay with the outer sphere, which is now not longer a sphere but a holosphere. So a holosphere with a shell that is 0.1 meters thick. Okay, that is the object we will work with from now on. Good. To give it a texture, we'll go straight away into the shading editor and give it a new material. So that should be a glass holosphere. So the base color is white and the roughness is 0 and the transmission is 1, and so we have glass here. And in order to work with the volume of these shell, not of the inner part of this holosphere, but of the shell, we are adding, because that is the object we are working with. It's not a sphere with some interior, but it's only the shell that we have defined by our Boolean operation. And so we add a principled volume. and that we are putting directly into the volume. And now we can use some more operators here. At first we are adding a Musgrave texture and a color ramp in order to apply this texture to the holosphere. So the color goes into the emission color, and when we're switching to rendered mode, we see that we see nothing. So we have to turn up the emission a little bit, maybe a little bit more, and yeah, we have to adjust these parameters here to get some first setting for our plasma. And maybe we can also already play a little around with the color. So the plasma maybe can be pink, and we see in rendered mode that looks already good. And we see also that the texture is only applied to the shell, not to the inner part of the holosphere, and that is what we want. So maybe it's also to have a better impression on that. It's good to go to the world properties here and to set the background of the world to black, so we can only see the object itself. Okay, so we have this Musgrave texture, and we hit Control T if you have Node Wrangler enabled in the settings. Then we are getting these mapping and texture coordinates, and we are switching from generated to object with the vector, and we are adding another texture, and that is the wave texture here. Okay, and as we see again, nothing happens. So that comes from the scale of the Musgrave texture. We have to scale this up to, let's say, around 14 maybe. So this way, and now we see this wave structure here added to this Musgrave structure, and we have this now to scale down to, let's say, 0.5, 0.6, around that, and to add some distortion to it. So this distortion makes a very nice, already a very nice plasma effect. Yeah, as you can see here. And these bands are defined by the shell of this hollow object. So that is already looking very nice. And now we can adjust some detail here and some detail scale. I would recommend to set it not too high. And we can adjust again our color ramp to define how dense these plasma structures are on the shell of our holosphere. So maybe that could be a good setting, and we are bringing this color near the black, and I think that is already a very good result. So now we are going to add the animation to this object, or to this structure here, to this plasma structure. So the handle to do that is the phase offset of our wave structure. So if we play around with this phase offset, we see it is moving, and we will use this effect for animating the whole scene. So we are setting this phase offset dependent to a value, and we are driving this value by our current frame. So if you remember, we have a animation defined by 500 frames, and if we go back to shading and we are setting this as the current frame, what we do with hashtag frame, and then we press space, we see that here the value goes through the frames. So as we know already that these frames are far too fast moving if the phase offset is connected directly to them, or vice versa, the phase offset is moving far too fast as the frames are connecting to them or connected to them. We have to divide them by some value, but we want to achieve another point, and that is we want to make it recurring. We want to loop it. We want to having a looped animation on this hollow sphere. So how can we achieve that? If we want to loop something, my idea was to put this value first into a math node and multiply it with 2 times pi. That is also called tau. So one whole circle phase, and I think we can use tau here. Yes, you see that is 6.283, so it's the double value of pi. And then we are sure that if we afterwards divide this, we need another math node for that. If we divide this by the number of the frames we are generating, and that is 500. Unfortunately, we have no driver for that, so we have to set this manually. There is a request on, if I remember correctly, blender.community. There's a request to provide also last frame as a driver for these shading nodes. But it's not yet implemented. We are using this value here, and we divide it by the number of the frames we are generating. So we have, with this construction, already a complete cycle. And if we put that into the phase offset and we running the animation, it's not much to be seen here because the rendering is somewhat slow, and if we are going to it doesn't work in in the preview, in the material preview, so we have to stick with as I said before, we have to stick with the real cycles rendering. We see it's only moving a little bit, so to have this amplified a little bit, we add another math node finally here. And that is a factor. So we multiply the value we are getting from here, from this a closed circle and we multiply it by, let's say, maybe 5. Okay, and in the preview, if we are pressing space, we see now there is some more movement in our holosphere and some more plasma, some more detailed plasma and some more plasma effect that seems to be more realistic. So I think we will go with these values and with these settings, and we will render an animation out of this, and then we will see how this looks like. So see you after the render. Okay, rendering is finished, so that is the render. You can see the plasma is moving around the shell of the holosphere, and you can also see that we have small light points on the sphere, but the main light comes from the plasma inside. So the light is only for the background. What we will do is next. Okay, last thing to do is to complete our scene, and for that we are adding a plane and scale it up by, let's say 3, and we are going into edit mode and select just one edge and extrude it into that direction. That is a trick I learned from Ducky3D. Ducky3D, follow him on this platform here, because I learned a lot from him, and he makes really good tutorials. So we have to go back and to move up our holosphere, and then we have to adjust our camera to it. So Control Alt 0 gives us the camera view from our point of view, and so this seems to be okay, but we have to make this object a little bit more smooth. So we have to add a modifier, a bevel modifier to it, and we're going to use some 100, let's say 100 segments here. And now if we are going back to camera view, it looks much better. So if we are going to use the rendered view, we see that our light is far too bright. So we are going to move it a little bit outside and also a little bit down, let's say that way. And if we go back, so that looks far better. And last point is to give our backdrop a texture. So we are going to shading here, and we are starting with a new material, and we are adding a Musgrave texture, and we are adding a color ramp as usual to get these things here into work. And we are not only connecting the color to the color, but also the color to the roughness to get some structure on the surface. We're going to scale that up a little bit, and we're going to bring these handles more together, and we are bringing this color down to, yeah, maybe this gray. And then Control T, if you have node wrangler enabled, you can change the coordinate to object, and we are adding a noise texture here in between, and we see already how that looks like. So maybe we are scaling this a little bit down that way, and we are maximizing the detail because we want sharp edges here, and maybe distortion. Don't know if that is a good idea. No, I don't think so. So let's keep it as it is. And now we have, I think, a really nice effect. And if we look through the camera that way, then it seems to be okay, but I think maybe we can put the light a little bit nearer, maybe that way. So okay, so I think that should be okay. So I think that's the final setup, and we are going to render this again and showing the final result after it is rendered. The render is finished. So that's it, finally, and we see a smoothly moving plasma structure, and you can play around with all the settings and the color also, and everything around it. So as you like, you can modify this, of course, the setting. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you like it, then please like it. And yeah, so thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.